In a small town known for its natural riches, where the sound of the waves soothed dreams and the seagulls announced the arrival of a new day, lived Charlotte. A 25-year-old young woman with long brown hair and eyes that seemed to hold all the secrets of the sea. The only daughter of one of the most influential families in the region, she grew up amidst the luxury and privileges that her social position provided. From a young age, she demonstrated an extraordinary intelligence and a keen sensitivity to the arts. Her mother was a talented artist and had been her foundation and friend. Unfortunately, her mother passed away in a tragic accident when she was only 12, leaving a void that seemed impossible to fill. Her father, a successful businessman in the real estate sector, reacted to the loss of his wife by becoming even more controlling and demanding with his daughter. He planned every aspect of her life, from the school she would attend to the clothes she would wear at social events. Her two older brothers, already adults and working in the family business, followed their father's example and treated her as if she were a porcelain doll, fragile and incapable of making her own decisions. Despite family pressure, Charlotte was able to maintain her individuality. She chose to study art history at the local university, a decision her father reluctantly accepted as long as she promised to take a position at the family business after graduation. The young woman agreed, but in her heart, she knew her destiny lay beyond the walls of the empire her father had built. In her final year of college, fate smiled upon Charlotte. On a sunny afternoon, while she was resting on a bench on campus, a young man approached, intrigued by the drawing coming to life on paper. His name was Kaio, possessing natural beauty and a light smile capable of brightening any environment. Kaio was the opposite of everything Charlotte knew. The son of a humble family, he had earned a scholarship to study architecture at the same university as her. He worked as a carpenter to help with expenses. The connection between them was instantaneous. The young woman was captivated by the simplicity and passion the young man had for life, while he was fascinated by her intelligence and sensitivity. They began to meet frequently, sharing their dreams, fears, and hopes. Charlotte felt truly free for the first time in her life, away from the suffocating expectations of her family. As her relationship with Kaio intensified, the family pressure became increasingly present. Charlotte's father disapproved of the relationship, considering the young man to be beneath his daughter. Her siblings, with equally cruel attitudes, constantly made derogatory comments doubting Kaio's intentions and questioning his ability to provide the comfortable life they believed was her right. "You cannot be serious, Charlotte," her father said during a tense dinner. "That boy has nothing to offer. You deserve someone of our level." She felt her blood boiling in her veins. "And what exactly is our level, Dad? Money? Status? He has something much more valuable: integrity and genuine love." This troubled her deeply. Even after years of being in a relationship with Kaio, her family continued to criticize and judge him. They believed that because they had money, she should follow their wishes. Her father frequently reminded her of her financial dependence, demanding obedience, even though she was already an adult woman. Charlotte respected him immensely, but this relationship crossed the boundaries of respect, becoming something toxic and suffocating. The absence of her mother, who had passed away, made everything even more difficult, leaving her vulnerable and defenseless against family pressures. She found herself torn between the love she felt for Kaio and the respect she had for her family. She knew she was reaching a point where she would have to make a difficult choice. It was one night, sitting on the beach sand, that he took her hands in his and asked the question that would change their lives forever. "I know I don't have much to offer besides my love and dedication, but if that's enough for you, I would like to spend the rest of my life by your side. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face as she responded with an emotional yes. At that moment, she knew she was choosing not just a husband, but a new life. They decided to start their life together. Charlotte wanted something discreet and simple, while Kaio feared that in the future, she might regret not having a big party or wearing her dream wedding dress. But for her, none of that mattered. Having Kaio by her side was the greatest wealth she could possess. When Charlotte announced her engagement to the family, the reaction was explosive. Her father, red with anger, shouted that she was throwing her life away. "So you're going to marry a poor man and expect me to support you both, aren't you?" Her siblings accused her of being ungrateful and selfish. The words hurt, but she remained firm in her decision. "If you cannot accept my choice, then you leave me no other option," she said, with a trembling but determined voice. "I renounce my inheritance and any connection with the family business. I would rather build my own life with the man I love than live a gilded lie." The silence that followed was deafening. Charlotte left her family's mansion feeling both free and terrified. She was leaving behind everything she knew, but she knew she was following her heart. The months that followed were a whirlwind of emotions and challenges. They got married in a simple ceremony, surrounded only by close friends, just the way she had always dreamed. Her family was incredulous, and Charlotte's father was certain that she would eventually give up to return to the comfort she had always been accustomed to. The couple rented a small apartment and began building their life together. She got a job at a local art gallery, while he continued his work as a carpenter, dreaming of the day he could open his own business. Life wasn't easy. Accustomed to comfort and luxury, Charlotte had to learn to deal with financial limitations. But each challenge they overcame together only strengthened the love between them. They laughed at the burnt meals, celebrated every small victory, and dreamed of the future they would build side by side. A few months had passed since the wedding, and Charlotte felt she had made the right choice. She was happier than she ever imagined possible. Kaio was her safe haven, her best friend, and her love. Together, they faced the world. One evening, while they were having dinner in their small apartment, she decided to share something special. She went to the bedroom and returned with a small carved wooden box. "You know, there's something I've never shown anyone," she said, carefully opening the box. "It's the only photo I have of my mother." She took a small picture frame out of the box and handed it to him. The photo showed a beautiful woman, with the same eyes as Charlotte, smiling while having coffee. Kaio took the picture frame, looking at it with curiosity. But as soon as his eyes fell on the image, something changed. His face turned pale, his hands began to tremble. Charlotte noticed the change immediately. "Kaio, what's wrong? Are you okay?" He lifted his eyes from the photo, and she saw something she had never seen before. Fear, guilt, and deep sadness. "Charlotte," he murmured, his voice almost disappearing. I met her. I was there at the..." The words simply escaped him, preventing him from continuing. Charlotte's world seemed to freeze. She couldn't process what she was hearing. "What do you mean by, was there?" Now Charlotte and Kaio's names have been replaced with pronouns to make the text more fluid, avoiding unnecessary repetitions. Kaio took a deep breath, tears forming in his eyes. "I was the driver of the other car, the car that crashed into hers." The words hit Charlotte like a punch in the stomach. She instinctively stepped back, as if being close to Kaio could physically hurt her. "No," she murmured, shaking her head. "It can't be. You must be confused. You have to be." But Kaio continued, his voice choked with emotion. "I had just gotten my license. It was night. I was on my way home afterward, and suddenly, I felt dizzy. I lost control of the car for a second. By the time I realized, it was already too late." Charlotte felt as if the ground were disappearing beneath her feet. The man she loved, for whom she had given up everything, the man she chose to love against all odds, was connected to the tragedy that had destroyed her family. "Why did you never tell me?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "I didn't know, Charlotte," Kaio replied, desperate. "I swear I didn't know it was your mother. I never imagined. If I had known..." But Charlotte could no longer listen. She stood up abruptly, staggering away from Kaio. She needed air, she needed to think. Without saying a word, she grabbed her coat and left the apartment, leaving Kaio calling her name. Charlotte wandered aimlessly through the city streets, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Love, anger, confusion, all mingled in her chest. How could fate be so cruel? How could she love the man responsible for her mother's death? Could she handle this every day? Hours passed before Charlotte returned home. She found Kaio sitting on the sofa, his eyes red from crying. He stood up as soon as he saw her, but didn't dare to approach. "Charlotte, he began, but she raised her hand, asking for silence. "I need time, Kaio," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I need to process all of this. Please give me space." The days that followed were a test of love and strength for the couple. The apartment that was once a haven of happiness had become a minefield of unspoken emotions. Charlotte oscillated between moments of intense anger and deep sadness. Kaio, consumed by guilt, could barely look his wife in the eye. Both wondered if this would be the end. Would their relationship be strong enough to bear such a heavy burden? It was during this turbulent period that she realized she needed to better understand what had happened. She asked Kaio to tell her everything about that fateful night. Reluctant, but knowing he owed Charlotte the truth, Kaio shared every painful detail. "I was 18 years old," he began, his voice trembling. "I had gotten my driver's license just a few days before, and on the way home I started to feel unwell. I thought it was just fatigue. Suddenly, everything became blurry and I fainted. When I realized it, I had already crossed into the opposite lane." Charlotte listened in silence, tears streaming down her face. Kaio continued, "I got out of the car, disoriented. I saw the other vehicle, your mother. I tried to help, but I didn't know what to do. The ambulances arrived, but it was too late. I spent months in therapy after that. The guilt, it never completely went away." Charlotte believed the driver might have been drunk at the time, which caused her deep sadness mixed with anger. Her family tried to prove this suspicion, but nothing was confirmed. For a long time she felt that her mother's death was the result of irresponsibility, but now she understood that the accident was, in fact, a tragedy. She realized that the pain had not only destroyed her own life, but also Kaio's. He had been carrying that burden for years, seeking redemption in every possible way, trying to free himself from an oppressive weight. In the following days, Charlotte remained silent for long periods, immersed in her thoughts, trying to understand everything that had happened. Perhaps in that silence the possibility of healing began to emerge, shy and painful. They began having long and deep conversations. At no point did he pressure her. He knew it would be this way and felt he didn't deserve his wife's forgiveness. However, the bond between them was strong, and even being swept away by a whirlwind of emotions and thoughts, Charlotte knew, deep down, that there was no clear culprit. Over time, they decided to seek professional help, opting for both individual and couple therapy sessions, as everything seemed too difficult to handle on their own. Charlotte shared memories of her mother with Kaio, allowing him to get to know the woman whose life had been cut so short. He, in turn, revealed to Charlotte how the accident had shaped his own path. After years of guilt and regret, and with the help of professionals and the support of his family, Kaio had decided to live with dignity, always seeking the right path and fighting for his dreams. Slowly, the love that once united them began to strengthen again. She saw in him not only the man she loved, but someone who, like her, had been deeply affected by the same tragedy. One night, sitting on the porch of her small apartment, Charlotte took Kaio's hands in hers. "Kaio," she began, her voice gentle, "what happened was a terrible tragedy. For a long time, I thought I could never overcome this loss. But now I understand that forgiveness is not just for you, it's for me too. I forgive you, and I choose to continue our life together." Kaio looked at Charlotte with tears in his eyes. "I love you so much, Charlotte. I promise to spend every day of my life trying to be worthy of this forgiveness." In that moment, they both felt a weight being lifted from their shoulders, The past couldn't be changed, but the future was in their hands. Over time, Charlotte learned to feel longing, but now a peaceful longing that didn't weigh on her chest. The pain was still there, but it had transformed into something gentler. No anger, no resentment. She understood that somewhere deep in her heart, forgiveness was materializing, not just for Kaio, but also for herself. Kaio, in turn, continued working to accept that although the accident was a misfortune, he couldn't go on living as if he deserved eternal punishment. They realized that despite the tragic circumstances that connected them, their love was strong enough to overcome even the toughest trials. 1 year after the revelation that almost destroyed their marriage, Charlotte and Kaio were closer than ever. They had turned a tragedy into an opportunity for growth. At that moment, both felt a peace they had never experienced before. They had faced the worst that fate could present to them and emerged stronger. Their love, tested by the fire of adversity, proved to be more resilient than anyone could have imagined. Charlotte and Kaio knew that the road ahead would still have challenges, but they were prepared to face them together. They had learned that true love is not just about the happy moments, but about the strength to overcome the toughest obstacles side by side. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.